You know, I have a lot of nostalgia for the original Xbox. Obviously, it's where the entire Halo series got started. But beyond that, it was Microsoft's first big push into console gaming. They showed up with a very powerful, more adult-oriented system, and it worked to push the online gameplay forward that Sega attempted to really get started with the Dreamcast. So I kind of wanted to go back and take a look at different bundles and special edition systems to pick up and check out here on the channel, and I came across this one. This is kind of an interesting release because it was in Japan and it has a certain controller that I've never actually seen in person. Well, we're gonna change that today when we unbox this Project Gotham Racing 2 Halo CE Combat Evolved Edition. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button. And if you're new to the Small Wave channel and you like 20-year-old unboxings, make sure you're subscribed down below. So first, let's talk about this edition that released. At the time, Microsoft was doing releases where they would package in titles, like they had a NCAA 2005 Topspin bundle. I think they had links in there at one point, but this in particular was a pretty cool release with Halo and Project Gotham Racing 2. There were also some other pieces that were included here, which had that DVD playback remote. You needed that to play DVDs, which was kind of annoying since the PS2 on the other side did not need it, but nonetheless, that's just kind of the way that Microsoft went about that. But on top of that, there was a specific controller that was released in Japan, and it really made way for the S-Type that I'm sure a lot of us ended up picking up later on in the Xbox's life, considering the Duke controller was pretty large and for a lot of people unwieldy. Now this box is pretty big, so we're gonna do our best to kind of look around it here. Xbox, and then we have obviously a lot of Japanese writing around the box itself. Unfortunately, I can't really read this, and if we look at the bottom here, we have sort of everything that's in here with an Xbox Live 2-month card, the DVD remote, we also have the system. They even talk about the CESA Game Awards 2002 to 2003 for Halo Combat Evolved, which, I mean, Halo at the time, that year when it released, it was nominated for Game of the Year all over the place. Like, it was like the default choice, kind of like how we see one big game come out each year and it's just immediately, okay, that's definitely gonna be in there. Halo was that title for Microsoft, and it came at a great time with the launch of the system. Unfortunately, in Japan, you still had to do a lot of convincing to get people on board with the original Xbox because obviously, Microsoft was going up against Sony and Nintendo, who very storied history, and then here comes this American company showing up with this this system that has a first-person shooter and some racing games, which we can see Project Gotham Racing 2, and then Halo Combat Evolved, and then we have a picture of everything that comes with it, including 2 S-Type controllers. Now, one is the black S-Type controller, and the other one is the controller that I've never actually seen in person, and it's this gray S-Type controller that was released in Japan before the S-Type made its way to the US. And the idea, I guess, was that the Duke controller was just such an issue in Japan, and they wanted to resolve that quickly, so they decided to release this S-Type pretty early on, and apparently things are a bit different with this one, even compared to the regular S-Type that we know. Also, I really like this box. On one side it's Halo, the other side it's Project Gotham Racing 2, and it sort of follows around the corner here. So this whole side is Halo themed, and then on this side, it's Project Gotham themed. Also, as you can see, the box is massive. I mean, they have to fit the original Xbox that was already pretty big, all the different accessories, multiple controllers, and they decided they needed a PS5 box in order to fit everything in there. But I think we can, for the most part, unpack things here well enough on camera. So let's see, we have, starting with a controller at the top. This is the standard S-Type. Of course, this is all secondhand, so I think they just kind of shoved everything back in the box there. That's our power cable. Have the standard AV cables here. I have component cables we can hook it up and check out the image on so it looks a little better. This is the other controller, the one I was curious about. This is kind of like this gray controller that they released, and it does feel a little weird with A, B, X, and Y. In fact, it also looks slightly different. I am curious if this controller released anywhere else outside of Japan, different parts of the world or anything, because I have never seen this before in the US. I was younger as well, so I didn't necessarily go out and buy every controller that was coming out at the time. But I remember seeing a blue S-type controller and the standard black. That's typically the two that I had friends who would pick up one or the other. And a quick comparison, here is the controller from Japan, and then here is the S-type controller that I'm more familiar with, which you can see the obvious difference right away is kind of the bright green jewel with Xbox, and then here it's just got a black jewel with the green Xbox logo there. So definitely an interesting difference. I'm curious which one everyone prefers. I still kind of like the standard, but I'm also very used to that. I will point out that A, B, X, and Y are different. Like here, we have sort of the floating button design where you can see through the plastic, and A, B, X, and Y just sort of look like they're encased in it. But in this instance, it's the typical button, but they just have the letters imprinted on it. I do prefer the smooth buttons that we have here for A, B, X, and Y, but I guess if you're someone who likes to at least have the feel of the button, maybe a little bit of a texture to it, I can understand why you'd prefer this one. Next up, we do have the DVD remote. It's still pretty standard all the way around, and they didn't change any of the languages or anything on the remote itself. It still is all completely in English. Obviously, we have the directions that are in Japanese here, but you would need this in order to play DVDs on your Xbox, which again was a pretty annoying requirement considering something like the PS2, you just drop the DVD in, and I think this was like a $30 or $40 add-on, but you would get this, you would take the DVD IR remote, you'd plug it into controller port 4 and just never think about it again. And then finally, we have the Xbox system itself. I'm not really expecting there to be much of a difference here between this or a standard NTSC Xbox. I mean, we do have the sticker here with Xbox and all the Japanese writing and everything, all the information you would need on the bottom there. And we do have a manufacturing date of 12/28/2001. So we are basically dealing with what's nearly a launch model. We also have a pretty sizable manual that comes with the console, mostly going over what you can and can't do with it, some suggestions like not sitting it halfway off the table. And of course they have several images to explain it a bit better. For example, when you rip CD music, you can dance, you can play the game, or you can kind of look at it sideways for troubleshooting with your cat that can stand on their hind legs. Also, as many of you know, I'm very generous, so this is a 2-month subscription to Xbox Live. Never been redeemed or scratched off, so we'll do that now. Never mind, apparently we won't. The letters and numbers behind it for redeeming have basically faded away. I'm not sure what to do. Do we call customer service? Is there an expiration date on this? Because otherwise I want my 2 free months. So here we are in the Xbox dashboard. I can just change the language to English without any issues there. But I am currently locked to the Japanese region for games. So for example, if I take Black, which is a really good Xbox game, and I pop it in here, which by the way, this system is in really good condition. The tray just kicks out immediately. What it's gonna do is it's gonna attempt to load this up, and actually for a second there, it'll look like it's reading the disc and about to start up, but it will stop and then come back and just say, hey, this isn't the correct region. Insert the region for Japan, the disc for Black. Fortunately, can't really do much. And looking in the box, it appears that the person decided not to put Halo or Project Gotham Racing 2 in there, which feels like I'd be stuck. Except there's one interesting quirk when it comes to original Xbox games, which is that while obviously different regions had different system codes on the bottom for manufacturing, and games were region locked, not every single game was region locked for the original Xbox. There are some that just work across all regions. And in fact, I have a few here based on a list online as people have been gathering which games are just universal and can be used. So I figured we would test a couple of them here right now. The first one we'll test is an absolute classic that I think most of us who had an Xbox had this game. That's Halo 2. Halo 2 apparently just works across all regions. And while this is a Japanese Xbox, this is an NTSC Halo 2 disc. So we'll pop it in here and see what happens. So we had the Xbox splash screen, the Microsoft logo popping up underneath of it. And hey, there it is. Microsoft Game Studios. Yeah, it looks like Halo 2 works. So again, this is an NTSC disc, so one that would be for North America, working currently in a Japanese region Xbox console. Halo 2 loads right up. And I'm not really sure why this is, that certain games work across different regions, whereas others don't. I mean, I guess technically you could just make one disc then and just ship it out everywhere, but these are labeled with NTSC or PAL or anything like that, so it's an odd situation there. Let me know down in the comments if you know why some games just work across all regions, whereas others are locked down. And there we have it, Halo 2, playing perfectly fine on the original Xbox. And, you know, I'm looking around at this. I know we have much better looking games currently, but it's still pretty impressive to see what the original Xbox was able to do back in, especially later on in its life, like 2003, 2004, when we had, yeah, games like a Halo 2 popping up, but also Chronicles of Riddick and many others. It was a very impressive system at the time for the visuals it was able to push. Speaking of visuals, another game that's supposed to work across different regions is Splinter Cell Pandora Tomorrow. This one, obviously a third-party game from Ubisoft, not one from Microsoft's. The choices between games that worked across regions seem to be kind of scattershot here, but I guess we'll see if Pandora Tomorrow works. So we have the Xbox logo, Microsoft logo, and yeah, there it is. The Ubisoft logo pops up. So Pandora Tomorrow, another one that works on the Japanese Xbox, despite being an NTSC disc. Pandora Tomorrow was another really good-looking game on those platforms. I think Chaos Theory is where it went to the next level for the original Xbox, and it just absolutely outclassed the PS2 and the GameCube versions. I mean, Splinter Cell back then or in that generation looked really good, but Chaos Theory, they had bump mapping and it just looked fantastic. Still though, Pandora Tomorrow was a classic, and it's kind of an interesting thing to see that this is one that for some reason was just region free, especially since it's just a third-party game. I was looking up and down a list online, and it's the most random things. I tested a few others that are on that list. Fable did not work. Even though it's on there, I couldn't get this one to work on the Japanese Xbox. And then Carve, which again, definitely out of left field, also couldn't get it to work. But Pandora Tomorrow and Halo 2, no problem. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for the original Xbox from Japan. There's no real point in buying one of these, to be honest, considering you can soft mod basically any Xbox and open up its region locking and all of this. But I was kind of interested to get one of these and just take a look around it, as well as the controller itself that is a good bit different from what I'm used to with the original Xbox. And of course to see what Microsoft was attempting to push in the region at the time. You can't go wrong with Project Gotham Racing 2 and Halo Combat Evolved, absolute classics then. And I guess it was kind of fun to check out some of the region-free Xbox games, as some of them just happen to work on all different Xbox systems. But let me know what you guys thought about this down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.